What's up guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So today we're going to see what if Deku was chosen by Infinity Stones since birth. So this story is going to be very interesting, and if you're new here, please subscribe the channel and also like the video.
The birth of the universe is an interesting story known to little. In the beginning, there was nothing but a single cosmic being. Its name and appearance unknown, it lived in solitude, being the only sort of life to exist at the time. After eons of living with no company, the cosmic entity decided there was no point in existing if it was destined to do so alone. Calling upon its infinite power, the being chose to end its own life, unleashing a mighty explosion known to all as the Big Bang. The cosmic entity destroyed itself, its essence becoming the Aussies of the universe and all that exists. The first forms of life to spawn after the cosmic entity's demise were what could be called the cosmic powers of the universe. Each member controls one aspect of the universe. Eternity controlling creation, death controlling death, and Master Order and Lord Chaos controlling order and chaos respectively. Soon, lesser cosmic entities began to come into existence, such as the Celestials, immensely large beings who enjoyed toying with lower lifeforms, and the Watchers, equally large beings who took it upon themselves to record all data in the universe, each being assigned their own galaxy. Eventually, more and more forms of life began to exist, humans being one of countless races to have spawned. It should be noted though that the powers the first cosmic entity possessed didn't fade along with his existence. No, they were condensed into 6 stones. The orange soul stone represents the entity's ability to control life even beyond death. The green time stone displays the being's mastery over time. The blue space stone shows how space and distance were simply something it invented. The yellow mind stone is a reminder that all the minds in the universe have the same origin. The red reality stone points back to the creator of what is considered real. Finally, the purple power stone serves as an example of how powerful the cosmic being was during its lifetime. When the Big Bang occurred, the stones were shot throughout different parts of the universe, their existence something only known by the cosmic powers of the universe, the Celestials, and the Watchers. At least, that was supposed to be the case. Somehow, in some way, the Mad Titan Thanos, a member of a powerful alien race known as the Eternals, began collecting them, intending to use them to wipe out half the universe. With the reality and mind stones currently in his possession, he has already proven to be more powerful than the Celestials and Watchers themselves. Thankfully, seeing as there were still 4 other stones he needed to find, Thanos could still be stopped, leading to the dilemma Uatu the Watcher, overseer of the Milky Way galaxy, was currently facing. Accidentally discovering the location of the Power Stone, the Watcher hoped to use it to stop Thanos' crusade, only to find out he couldn't effectively wield its power. To use the stones, apparently the wielder needed to have an infallible amount of willpower, something Uatu was surprised he didn't possess despite his cosmic status. With the help of his fellow Watchers, he began searching for someone who could wield the Power Stone and hopefully use it to stop Thanos, this being one of the only times they were willing to interact with other races, something they swore never to do after a horrible incident involving the eradication of an entire planet. In the end, the Watchers found 2 candidates to wield the stone, though both weren't the most ideal options. The first candidate was an Etern, known as the champion of the universe, his name stemming from the fact he goes around the universe fighting the best of the best, barring the cosmic entities of course. While immensely strong and skilled, the champion of the universe was extremely unintelligent. Possessing 2 infinity stones on top of a massive amount of intelligence, Thanos would have no problem taking the stone from the brute. With the so-called champion of the universe being deemed unworthy, the Watchers decided it would be best to give the stone to the only other being who could wield its power without the stone killing them, excluding Thanos of course. Once they found him, the Watchers were beyond shocked by several aspects of his character. First off, he was human, one of the most basic and least powerful races in the universe. The fact that this person had the ability to use the stone shook them to their very core. Secondly, he was only 4 years old, not even close to being fully developed. Despite this, his will, one belonging to a 4-year-old human, was apparently stronger than that of the Celestials and Watchers. Here's where Uatu's dilemma comes into play. Upon finding the second candidate, he had 2 options in terms of dealing with the Power Stone. His first option would be to keep watch over it himself and fight Thanos himself when he arrives to claim the artifact. Sadly, he knew his strength wouldn't be enough to drive the Mad Titan away. On the other hand, he could give the stone to the boy. Depending on the will of the user is how much power they can draw from the stone. Seeing as this boy's will was strong enough to allow him to hold it in the first place, there was the possibility of him having the ability of drawing out the stone's full power, something Thanos has yet to do with his and something the champion of the universe would never be able to accomplish. However, doing so would paint a huge target on the boy's back. Once Thanos learns of the stone's location, he'll stop at nothing to retrieve it for himself. The boy would eventually have to fight the Mad Titan, having the entire universe resting on his shoulders. This was the only chance to stop Thanos' rampage. But was he willing to risk the life of a child to do so? Of course he would, there was no other way. Glancing at the earth, Uatu nodded to himself, knowing what must be done. 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya was not having a good day, for he was told to give up chasing his dream. What was his dream? Well, it was to be the best hero to ever exist. In a society where 80% of the population are born with innate powers known as quirks, becoming a superhero wasn't as hopeless of a dream as one might initially expect. Being a superhero was actually one of the most sought-out careers in the world. Unfortunately, Izuku didn't have a quirk of his own. By now, it should have manifested, prompting his mother Midoriya to take him to the hospital to see if they could get some answers as to why he didn't have his quirk yet. After some scans and X-rays were taken, it was discovered that Izuku was part of the 20% of the world that were quirkless. To the world, being quirkless was like dying. Except instead of physically disappearing, they're basically erased from society. Simply put, they were outclassed. Quirks gave people an advantage in both a physical and economical sense. They allowed the individual possessing them to complete tasks a quirkless person would never dream of attempting. Even in the mental field, the quirkless lacked any use due to the existence of intelligence-heightening quirks. With this all being said, Izuku couldn't become a hero. If he even tried, he'd just get killed. Heck, now that he was quirkless, it will be harder for him to find a job. But the boy didn't really care about that at the moment. Right now, he was doing his best not to cry at the destruction of his precious dream. After all, his favorite hero All Might, the current #1 one hero and the most powerful to date wouldn't, so why should he? A hero needs to be strong, whether that's for himself or for others. If it weren't for his lack of a quirk, Izuku would have made a great hero. He being one of the most selfless individuals to ever exist. Most people wanted to be a hero for the fame and money, but Izuku simply wanted to help others and inspire hope. He wanted to be like All Might, always wearing a smile to reassure everyone that everything was going to be fine. Mom, Izuku asked his mother once they got home. To try to cheer her little boy up, she allowed him to continuously watch a recording of All Might saving a bunch of people from a burning building, his signature smile never faltering. I can still be a hero, right? I can still be like All Might, right? His mother opened her mouth, wanting to give her baby the answer he wanted. Sadly, she couldn't. Giving him false hope wasn't something she was willing to do. Izuku, out of impulse, she wrapped her arms around her son, trying to comfort him. I'm so sorry. ... As his mother continued to sob, Izuku began mentally cursing at himself, using every bad word his 4-year-old brain knew. His mother was trying to assure him everything will be fine, yet he should be the one doing so to her. He was the one desiring to be a hero, the one who wanted to make everyone happy. Yet, here was his mother, sobbing. What type of hero makes his own mother cry? Eventually, Inko broke the hug and prepared to put Izuku to sleep. When his mother finally left the room, he quickly glanced out the window. The peaceful night sky doing wonders for the boy's mood. After a few minutes of staring, the boy managed to catch a glimpse of a shooting star. A shooting star. What should I wish for? The boy asked himself, still at the age where he believed that wishing upon a star actually worked. It didn't take long for him to think of something though, his dream being robbed and all. I guess, I wish to become the best hero ever. Softly smiling to himself, the boy closed his eyes, preparing to go off into dreamland. When Izuku opened his eyes, the first thing he realized was that he was no longer in his room. The second thing he realized was that he was on the moon. Thirdly, he was somehow still able to breathe, knowing full well space lacked any sort of oxygen. From what he could tell, he was in a dream. It was the most logical conclusion, one which even a 4-year-old could arrive at. How else did he get here? Standing up, the boy began looking around, confused. Even if this was a dream, he wanted to know what was happening. It was then that he was greeted with a breathtaking view of the Earth, the planet looking enormous from where he was standing. Man, he could look at it forever. Pretty, isn't it? A male voice said, causing Izuku to turn around and become face to face with a bald man the height of All Might. It's my favorite sight in all the galaxy. Who are you? Izuku asked the man curiously. He was a kid talking to a man he just met. Even if the man was simply a figment of his imagination, of course he would want to know who he was speaking with. Apologies. My name is Uatu the Watcher. It is a pleasure to meet you. Hi Mr. Uatu, my name is, Izuku tried to say, only for Uatu to raise his hand, signaling to the boy that he was about to say something. I know who you are, Izuku Midoriya. You do? Yes, the Watcher said, a soft smile still plastered on his face. I also know a lot about you. You're 4 years old, your favorite superhero is All Might. And you wish to be a hero but can't because you're quirkless. Yeah, hearing that last part caused Izuku's lips to drop into a frown. May I ask, why is it that you want to be a hero? Why do I want to be a hero? The 4-year-old repeated before thinking about his answer. It didn't take long for one to form though. I wanna be a hero so I can help others with a smile like All Might does. Whenever he saves people or fights bad guys, he makes everyone feel good. I want to make others feel good as well. That is indeed a noble answer, Uatu told him, the boy's enthusiasm pleasing him. What if I said I could help you become a hero? You can help me. The boy's eyes began sparkling, forgetting that this was supposed to be a dream, too caught up in the moment. Yes. Reaching inside his robe, the Watcher pulled out a small purple stone encased in what appeared to be a clear force field. This is the Power Stone. As the name says, it gives the holder immense power. I've been looking for a hero to give it to. And I have decided you are the most worthy. Really? He asked, his eyes sparkling, only for them to stop as he realized something important. But wait, I'm not a hero. I don't even have a quirk. That may be true, but you have a heart bigger than most. That in itself makes you more worthy than if you were even stronger than All Might. So, will you take the stone? And make your first step in becoming a hero? Yes, Izuku said without hesitation. Most would have thought about their answer more thoroughly or asked some more questions, but Izuku was only 4. T.S. was like if his mom was allowing him to eat as many sweets as he wanted. It made Uatu feel bad about the amount of responsibility he was imposing on the boy, said responsibility he plans on informing him about later. But as was for the good of the universe. He was too young to understand all that was being imposed onto him at the moment. Good, now hold out your hand. Doing as he was told, Izuku. You watched in amazement when the Watcher summoned a small green gauntlet out of thin air and placed it in his hands. Glancing at it, Izuku noticed a small hole on the upper portion of the hand, but other than that, nothing about the thing stood out. This will help you control the stone, Uatu informed him. Go on, try it on. Nodding, Izuku slipped the metal gauntlet over his left hand, it fitting perfectly. Wanting to test it out, he attempted to make a fist, something he found he could do without effort. It fits perfectly. Wonderful. Now, do you see that small hole in the gauntlet? Uatu asked, pointing to the small hole Izuku saw earlier. I'm going to put the stone in there. Just a little warning, this will hurt a little. Izuku's eyes widened in fear, only for a determined stare to take its place a second later. He was finally getting powers, no way will a little pain get in his way. I'm ready. Smiling at the boy, the Watcher had the stone float towards the glove. Once the stone was directly above the hole, Uatu dispersed the force field, allowing the stone to claim its new resting place. Once it did, Izuku collapsed to his knees, screaming in agony. He could feel the stone's power coursing through him and it felt as if he was burning alive. The pain only lasted a few seconds though, much to his relief, and the boy was soon able to stand again. The stone is now yours, Uatu said once Izuku got back up. However, before I leave, there are 3 rules I need you to follow. Rules? The boy shakily asked, still recovering from the whole ordeal. Yes, rule number 1. Do not let anyone wear the gauntlet or touch the stone other than yourself. Doing so will hurt them really badly. Okay, truth be told, they'll die outright, but Izuku was only 4, the concept of death was still relatively new to him. You can still touch people with the gauntlet, you just can't let them wear it. Rule number 2, keep our meeting and the stone's power a secret. It is important you do so. Finally, use the stone to become the best hero you can be. Do you think you can follow those rules? Otherwise I'll have to take the stone back from you. I can, Izuku said, nodding firmly. While he was disappointed he couldn't tell anyone, it wasn't the end of the world. He also doesn't want anyone getting hurt, so he decided at that moment he'll wear the gauntlet all the time unless he was bathing or sleeping. He'll have to find a good place to hide it later though. Good. Now, there's one last thing I need to give you, Uatu explained before summoning a small ball of white mist. Since I don't want you killing anyone, I'm going to transfer my knowledge of the stone to you. Don't worry, this time it won't hurt, I promise. The Watcher blew the ball into Izuku's face, the bow. Why feeling the knowledge being absorbed into his brain, which actually wasn't much other than the basics on how to use the stone without killing anyone. Despite the Watchers being cosmic beings, they are. Ely didn't know much about how to use the stones themselves. Well, I've given you all that I needed to, Uatu said once Izuku finished processing the information. It is time for you to return home. We will meet again, but until then, remember all that I have said. I will, Mr. Uatu, Izuku declared, fire in his eyes. He now had the ability to become a hero and he wasn't going to mess it up. A tear of joy soon found itself sliding out of his left eye. Thank you. No, thank you, Uatu replied with a bow. Standing up, he then waved his arm, it somehow causing Izuku to become drowsy. Until we meet again. When Izuku opened his eyes for the second time, he found himself back in his room, laying on his bed. Briefly wondering how he got here, his eyes widened as his brain began remembering what happened last night, causing the boy to tear up in sadness. It was just a dream. I should have known. Of course, when some hope finally presented itself to him, it all ended up being fake. Sighing, Izuku moved his left hand to wipe some of the tears away, only for him to suddenly freeze. On his left arm was the gauntlet from his dream, the power stone still in its resting spot. At that moment, it took everything Izuku had in him to not scream in joy. Kachan, Kachan, guess what? Running towards a ashy blonde-haired boy around his age, Izuku was doing his best in trying to contain his excitement. The blonde boy was Katsuki Bakugo and he was Izuku's best friend. Although brash, a potty mouth, and somewhat arrogant, Katsuki had a large amount of guts and an immense amount of determination. Complementing his strong character, Katsuki's quirk, explosion, lets him ignite his sweat, allowing him to unleash powerful explosions from his body. With all these characteristics, Izuku couldn't help but admire him. What? The boy asked, wondering what was making his friend so happy. I got a quirk. Izuku lied, remembering what Uatu had told him about keeping the Power Stone a secret. Despite his young age, Izuku was actually quite good at keeping the Power Stone a secret. With his mom, he passed the gauntlet as a toy given to him by his preschool teacher, something she believed without hesitation. He has yet to show her his power though, Katsuki being the first person Izuku wanted to witness his strength. You did? Katsuki asked in surprise before smirking. Well, it's about damn time. What does it do? It makes me super strong, Izuku told him, still having yet unlocked the stone's full power. How strong? This strong. Looking around the local park for something to demonstrate his power on. Izuku laid eyes on a giant rock about 3 times the size of All Might. Running up to it, the Power Stone began to glow, a purple aura surrounding him as he gently flicked the piece of earth, causing it to shatter instantly. Quote. Witnessing the display of Izuku's power, Katsuki's brain went into overdrive. Watching the normally meek boy destroy something not EV. And he could stung at his confidence a bit. If he were any older, perhaps it would cause him to hate the boy and make him want to show him up. However, Katsuki was only 4, he seeing this as cool instead of a threat. There was finally someone at his level and it motivated him to train so he may one day surpass his friend. That was so cool. Really? Yeah, your quirk is much cooler than the ones those losers at school have. Let's see what else you can destroy. Glad to have impressed his friend, Izuku gave him a smile. Okay. 11 years have passed since Izuku received the Power Stone and the boy has been quite busy. First off, he has been training with the stone non-stop, managing to have improved greatly from when he first got the stone. Secondly, he begged his mother to enroll him in martial arts. Izuku was a smart boy and he knew there would come a time in his future hero career where his powers would be ill-suited for an occasion. As such, he wanted to make it so he was prepared for such moments. His body wasn't the only thing he strengthened, his mind having grown immensely these past 11 years. Keeping a profile on all the current, retired, and upcoming heroes in a collection of notebooks. The boy developed a tactical mind, learning how to counter a powerful quirk as well as how more unconventional ones could be used. Finally, although more recent, Izuku has been preparing himself to take the entrance exam to UA Academy, the greatest hero school in Japan. To him, going there would greatly help him become the hero he wants to be, especially since the school taught All Might himself. As for the Power Stone itself, Izuku has taken great care in not letting anyone touch it, knowing full well the consequences. There have been some close calls, but with some quick thinking on his part. He thankfully managed to defuse the situation before something happened. During his time with the stone, he ended up learning that the gauntlet had the ability to adjust its size to match its user. Something which happened whenever he had a growth spurt. He also discovered the stone had altered his physique by quite a bit, making him strong enough to lift a ton without it on his person. During these 11 years, his friendship with Katsuki continued to flourish. Hanging around one another ended up proving to be beneficial for both boys, with both of them being in the top of their class in terms of strength and intellect. The two developed a friendly rivalry, it being a motivation to push themselves to be the best they can. They also had an influence on each other personality-wise. Katsuki helped give Izuku the confidence he lacked, although the boy was still unconfident when it came to interacting with strangers, causing Katsuki to give him the name DEKU as a result of how pathetic his social skill were. With Izuku, his modesty had attached himself to the explosion maker. Of course, Katsuki was still quite arrogant and boastful, only seeing Izuku as worthy of his time. But without someone like Izuku to keep him in check, he could have turned into a bully who uses his power to pick on the weak. Despite all that he's accomplished, there were still so many road bumps Izuku ran into along the way. Having met Uatu, Izuku became immensely curious about the man and the power he possessed. When he tried learning about the Watcher, having used the internet, his local library, and asking everyone he knew, he couldn't find anything about the strange being. His second issue was one dealing with himself. The reason he had a shot at being a hero was because of the Power Stone. But would he still have had a shot if he didn't? It seemed as if the only reason he was special was because of the stone. Thankfully, the thoughts didn't last long, for he read what Uatu had said about the stone. The reason he could wield it was because he was worthy. As such, it wasn't an issue which bothered him that much, but he was still curious to know what would have happened if he wasn't given the stone. Alright, as you all know, you're all reaching the end of middle school, Izuku's middle school teacher stated, snapping the boy out of his daydream. Izuku had zoned out, thinking about the new hero who made her debut today, Mount Lady, a woman with a gigantification quirk. Now's the time you all think about your futures. Who am I kidding? All of you are planning on becoming heroes. Correct. Upon saying that, most of the students began cheering in affirmation, some of them even displaying their quirks in a non-destructive manner. Hey teach. Don't lump me into the same category as these crappy side characters, Katsuki scoffed. I'm off to be the best damn hero you've ever seen. Ah, right, you're applying to UA correct? His teacher asked the boy, surprising most of his classmates. The only one who wasn't was Izuku, the two boys making a pact to go to UA together. Damn right I am, I even aced the mock test. That's Katsuki Bakugo for ya. A student whispered to his comrade. Always showing off. Well, with an explosive quirk like his, he shouldn't have any trouble getting in, the student's comrade whispered back. The Our teacher smiled at the praise Katsuki was receiving. Eventually, he turned to Izuku, remembering something important. Wait, aren't you applying to UA as well, Izuku? Why yes sir, the boy timidly replied as everyone turned his attention towards him. Makes sense, another student whispered. He's crazy strong. Of course he is, Katsuki declared. He's the only person on my level and us top dogs have to stick together. Izuku silently groaned at Katsuki's declaration. It was just giving him more unwanted attention. A few seconds later, the teacher continued his lesson, making the attention short-lived, much to his relief. Eventually, the day ended and the class was dismissed, Izuku flying out of the classroom before anyone could ask him questions. Normally, he and Katsuki would go home together. But the other boy was taking the time to hang out with some of his followers despite the fact he cares little for them. In all honesty, he only kept them around because they were just ego boosters. Otherwise, Katsuki would drop them, his lackeys being punks. It was because of their nature that Izuku refused to hang out with them. Unknown to him, his simple choice of not associating with Katsuki's followers would lead to a life-changing encounter. Upon leaving the school, Izuku broke into a slight jog, wanting to go home as soon as possible. His reasoning for this was because he desired to finish the entry he had wrote for Mt. Lady in his hero analysis journal. Sadly, he wouldn't get his wish. Entering a tunnel he always passed through to get to his home, the boy casually walked through it before stopping. Having stepped on something sticky. Looking down, he noticed he had stepped on what appeared to be some slime. Curiously staring at it, Izuku didn't notice a large slime monster was sneaking up on him. Until it was too late. Wrapping itself around him, the monster smiled as it tried infiltrating the boy's body. Ah, just my luck, a disguise. The creature said to himself as it kept trying to possess the boy. And one of a harmless schoolboy no less. Looks like I can finally get rid of that pesky hero. Panicking, Izuku attempted to grab onto the slime, only for his attempt to be futile. Don't bother trying to escape. I can't be touched or harmed by physical objects. He can't be harmed by physical objects, huh? Izuku thought to himself as he stopped struggling, having calmed down. That's good to know. Well, let's see how he likes this. Sticking his arm into the monster's body, he simply flicked the air, rocketing himself to freedom, landing a few feet away. Looks like I was mistaken. The slime villain said out loud, smirking as he noticed Izuku's body being surrounded by a purple aura. You're a lot stronger than you look, but your powers seem to be only physical. Meaning you're no match for me. Upon stating this, he lunged at the boy again, only for Izuku to dodge out of the way with ease. Bracing himself, Izuku prepared to blow back the monster by flicking a gust of air at it. Only for someone else to beat him to the punch. Texas smash. Oh no. Seeing the villain's eyes widen in fear after having heard a voice Izuku recognized instantly. A large gust of wind shot through the tunnel. Using some of the Power Stone's strength, Izuku easily managed to avoid getting blown away. The sludge monster wasn't as lucky, his liquid body scattering all over the place. Too far away for him to gather it back. Are you okay, young man? The voice asked loudly, causing Izuku to turn around. Doing so revealed to him the figure of the number one hero himself, All Might. All Might. Izuku shouted excitedly before geeking out, mumbling facts about the hero under his breath as said hero gathered the remains of the villain in 2 soda cans. Once he saw his hero finish, Izuku pulled out one of his hero analysis notebooks and presented it to him. Please sign my notebook. Of course. Grabbing the notebook, All Might signed with surprise. Sing speed before giving it back to the eager fan. Thank you so much. I'll treasure this forever. It'll be a family heirloom. Always glad to be of service. The hero said before walking off. Now, I'm off to take this villain to jail. Farewell my adoring fan. As All Might prepared to fly off, a pang of realization hit Izuku. His hero was right here, perhaps he could answer the question of the possibility of someone quirkless becoming a hero. All Might, wait, can't, the hero declared. I must go. With that, All Might flew off, only to realize mid-flight that Izuku was clinging onto his leg. Kid, what are you doing? I need to ask you something. Seeing as he couldn't tell Izuku to stop holding onto him, All Might landed on a nearby building. He was prepared to take off again, but the boy was persistent, taking up a few more seconds of his time. The hero then coughed up blood before shriveling, leading the aspiring hero to discover a dark secret about his idol. After a battle with a supervillain, the amount of time All Might could use his powers for became limited, decreasing as the years went by. Nowadays, he can only use them for about 3 hours before reverting into a shell of himself. It was then Izuku asked his question. Can you become a hero without a quirk? All Might asked, repeating Izuku's question. As you know, quirks aren't everything when it comes to being a hero. But not having a quirk? No, I don't think you can become a hero. I see, Izuku glumly said upon hearing the answer his hero gave him. That solved his question about the possibility of him becoming a hero if he didn't have the power stone. Thankfully, he did, so the answer didn't really dampen his mood. It's nice to dream, kid, but you also need to be realistic. If you really want to help out, try becoming a police officer. Sure, they're constantly ridiculed for being less effective than heroes, but you'll still be helping others. Walking away from the boy, All Might made his way to the building's staircase. If you want to leave, these stairs should take you to the bottom floor. Also, would you mind keeping my secret for me? I need the public to continue believing the symbol of peace is invincible. There's no telling what might happen if you reveal that I'm not. Oh, of course, All Might, Izuku said. Take care, kid. With that, All Might left the building, leaving Izuku to his own thoughts. It sucks that All Might thinks the quirkless can't become heroes, Izuku thought to himself before looking at the power stone. But why do I feel that isn't true? Continuously. Why glancing at the nice view he had of the city, Izuku soon noticed an explosion going off not too far from where he was. A villain attack. Let's see what heroes will show up. Excitement filling his bones, Izuku began to leave the building, unaware of what he was about to experience. When Izuku got to the area the explosion came from, his eyes widened in shock. Right in front of him were the pro heroes Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Mt. Lady, and Backdraft fighting the slime monster All Might had taken out. Unfortunately, this was a battle they were losing. Mount. Lady couldn't even enter the fight due to her being too large to fit into the ally the fight was happening in while Backdraft was busy focusing on the fire that was spreading. Death Arms had tried punching the monster, only to learn of his quirk the hard way, effectively making him useless in the fight. Finally, Kamui Woods couldn't get anywhere near the fight either as his quirk made him weak to fire. Where did the fire come from? Well, it was coming from the boy the slime villain was trying to possess, said boy being Katsuki. Kachan. Izuku thought in worriment as he watched his best friend attempt to free himself from the villain's grip. Unfortunately, his explosion quirk was ill-fitted to fight against an opponent who was immune to blunt force. How did this happen? I thought All Might caught the guy. Did the bottle slip somehow? Replaying the moments he spent with All Might in his head, the boy nearly collapsed from shock. It probably slipped out of his pockets when I grabbed onto him. It's all my fault. Continuing to stare at Katsuki, he saw that the boy was in immense pain, increasing his guilt. His guilt only heightened when he realized All Might had passed his limit, meaning the one hero who could top this whole ordeal wouldn't be coming. It really is my fault. The pro heroes can't beat this guy and All Might is never coming. Kachan's going to die because of me. It's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. Clenching his fist, Izuku began drawing power from the power stone. His best friend was going to die into hell if he was going to sit by idly and do nothing. Kid, wait, Death Arms shouted as Izuku rushed forwards. What are you doing? You're going to get yourself killed. Izuku understood this, yet, he didn't let that fact deteriorate him from his mission. Nothing else mattered to him other than rescuing Katsuki. Picking up some rubble, the boy tossed it at the slime villain's left eye, hoping to blind him. His plan worked better than he thought, for the force of the rubble. He winded up destroying the monster's eye completely. Taking advantage of his opponent's dazed state, Izuku made his way towards Katsuki and stuck his arm into the slime. Deku, what the hell are you doing? Katsuki screamed at him, not out of anger, but fear. Fear that his best friend was going to get himself killed. Get the fuck out of here. You're going to die. I'm not leaving you. Izuku shouted in response, shocking Katsuki. Never has he seen the boy yell before. I just can't. Leave you to die. What type of person would I be if I did? Eventually managing to get a grip on Katsuki's shirt, Izuku pulled him out of the slime villain's body with ease. Lowering his strength, he then tossed Katsuki towards Death Arms. Death Arms, catch. What the? The hero had no time to question what was going on as he immediately dove into action, catching the blonde before he could hit the ground. At this moment, the slime monster had recovered enough to regain most of its strength. It then stared down Izuku in anger. You dare rob me of my vessel and take out my eye. You'll pay for that. I'll kill you, and then once I do, I'll kill everyone else here. I won't let you, Izuku bravely declared. Although he was initially scared, after having such an easy time freeing Katsuki, he discovered the villain didn't have the strength to harm him. Snarling in response, the villain shot a tendril at the boy, hoping to end his life by skewering him. Everyone in the background began screaming in fear, believing Izuku was going to die right there, but the boy did something in response which surprised the audience. With a simple backhand, Izuku changed the tendril's path, dislodged it from the villain's body, and sent it straight into the flames. Your time of hurting others is over, Izuku told the villain, angering him enough to shot another tendril, only for the same thing to happen again. Why? Another tendril was fired, this time Izuku flicking it to the side. Because I am here. Why won't you die? Unleashing an animalistic roar, the villain summoned 10 tendrils and aimed all of them at Izuku, wanting to turn him into a pincushion. Watching them come towards him, Izuku raised his gloved hand and snapped his fingers, unleashing a current of air which ripped apart the appendages and nearly blew the monster away. Dying here means more lives will be lost. Izuku answered as the power gem began glowing more profusely, the aura around him strengthening as well. So I can't let that happen. Deciding to end this fight, Izuku rushed forwards, preparing to strike the monster with his gloved fist. Smash! Throwing an uppercut, Izuku summoned an immense current of air which completely obliterated the villain. The current going in an upwards angle, the force ended up causing the clouds above the city to darken, a massive shower of rain occurring a second later. He changed the weather, one of the bystanders said out loud as Izuku began to take heavy breaths. That last attack taking more energy than he's used to using. He's so powerful, yet so young. He took out a villain even the pros couldn't. Wanting to check on his friend, Izuku turned around, only to be met with an eruption of cheers from not only the bystanders but the pro heroes as well. From the corner of his eye, he saw Katsuki give him a proud smirk. With all the attention he was receiving, the boy turned beet red. Not realizing his own idol was in the background, having been inspired by his actions. Young man, you are special. You ran in there to save your friend, not letting anything stop you. You are a true hero, and for that, I believe you are the one. After the defeat of the villain, the pro-heroes gathered around to reprimand Izuku for using his powers in public. However, it soon became clear they were only doing this because it was part of the law, them praising both Izuku and Katsuki's bravery immediately after. The pair then received several offers to join the agencies the heroes belonged to before the press began asking questions. Izuku only answered a few before leaving, all while Katsuki gladly soaked in all the attention he was getting. Upon escaping the crowd of people, Izuku began his trek home. When he was a few houses away, a familiar voice stopped him in his tracks. Oi, Deku, Kachan. Yes, somehow Katsuki managed to catch up to the boy even though he had left before him. You know damn well that I could have handled that guy myself. The boy said in his usual attitude before a thankful smile flashed on his face. But thanks. Jew. Saint, don't think this makes you better than me. Of course, Izuku answered earnestly. There'll be a day where our roles will be reversed and you'll be the only one capable of saving me. You damn right. Giving Izuku a fist bump. Katsuki soon left, leaving Izuku to continue his walk. At least, he would have if a surprise guest didn't reveal himself. I am here, All Might declared, dramatically dashing in front of Izuku. All Might. Yes, it is I, All. The man then shot out blood from his mouth, reverting him back to his skinny form. Young man, what you did back there was nothing short of impressive. Really? I didn't think it was as cool as everyone else did. You're far too modest. You rushed in and saved that boy without a second thought. The look in your eyes told me you would. They done so even if you didn't have a quirk. Thank you All Might. Izuku was practically in heaven. Here was his favorite hero, his idol, complimenting him on something he did simply because it was the right thing to do. No, I must thank you, for it's because of your act of bravery that I can pass down my quirk. Izuku tilted his head to the side, confused. Pass down your quirk? Yes. You see, my quirk is known as One for All. A quirk that has been passed down for a long time now. I am currently the 8th user. However, with my injury, I will soon need to retire and I will need someone. To take my place as the next symbol of peace and user of One for All. I've been searching for quite a while now, and I have decided that you are worthy of becoming my next successor. Me? Izuku asked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. All Might wanted Shy Izuku to become his successor. All Might answered his question with a nod. The choice is yours, but will you Izuku Midoriya take He power of One for All and become my successor? Yes, Izuku shouted, almost too loudly. His hero was offering him the chance of a lifetime. There was no way he was going to let this slip out of his grasp. Great, All Might stated, transforming into his muscular form again. Normally, I'd build your body up to take One for All in since you'd blow yourself up otherwise, but after watching your fight against that villain, I can say for certain that you are ready. Plucking a piece of his golden hair, he handed it to the boy. Eat this. What? To inherit my power, you need to take in my DNA. Still confused, Izuku swallowed the strand of hair, shivering as he felt it go down his throat. Good job. I must go now, but meet me at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park tomorrow so I may begin training you on how to use One for All. I'll be there, Izuku exclaimed. Unknown to him, when he accepted All Might's power, he had accepted to fight another battle no kid should ever have to. The next day, Izuku made sure to arrive at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park at the exact time he was told to, not wanting to keep All Might waiting. With the number 1 hero entrusting him with his power and even helping him learn how to use it. The last thing Izuku wanted was to be late. Speaking of his new quirk, about an hour after ingesting All Might's hair, he felt a surge of power enter his body. However, he made sure not to use it yet because he didn't want to cause damage to himself or his surroundings. It was best to let All Might teach him the basics before trying anything funny. Ah, young Midoriya, you're here early. All Might remarked as he walked up to the boy in his skinny form. Yeah, the boy responded. I didn't want to be late. All Might smiled at his successor. Well, it's shish. OWS that you're serious about your training. Now, before we begin, there's something I need to ask you. Sure. What is it? What is your quirk? You see, One for All is a quirk which stockpiles power. Along with the super strength you normally see me use, One for All increases the power of the user's normal quirk. At first, I thought you were quirkless due to the question you asked me, but it's clear you have one based on your fight with the sludge villain. Izuku began to get a bit nervous. While he already had a lie ready for whenever he was asked about his power, it was still a nerve-wracking process. Well, my quirk is called super strength. By drawing power from a focus point, which is this stone, I can increase my strength, speed, and endurance to high levels. I've never tested its limit though. But I don't think it has one. Quote, so your quirk seems to be similar to One for All, All Might noted. Like, super strength, One for All can enhance your abilities if you focus on doing so. But to have no limit, is that possible? Even One for All has one. So, how do I go about using it? Izuku asked, regaining All Might's attention. The way I usually do it is by clenching my buttocks and yelling. Smash, as loud as I can. You can go ahead and try it on one of those garbage piles over there. Seeing where his mentor was pointing, Izuku walked towards the garbage pile. Taking a deep breath in, Izuku began mentally repeating what All Might told him. Clench my butt and yell. Making a fist with his hand, Izuku began clenching his backside, a surge of energy filling him. It feels like the power I was drawing from the power stone when I was fighting the sludge villain. With the energy filling up inside him, Izuku threw a powerful punch at his target. Smash! Holy shit! All Might muttered as he saw the destruction Izuku caused using 100% of One for All. While not as devastating as his strongest attacks, it was still impressive for someone Oh, just used the quirk for the first time. That was impressive, my boy. How do you feel? Moving his arm, Izuku noticed it felt stiff for some reason. He never had this problem with the power stone, and the amount on One for All he was using didn't feel more powerful than the stone. A bit stiff actually. I'm not sure if I can use it for too long in one arm. Unlike with my quirk, I couldn't adjust the power level One was using. It also felt like One for All only went into my right arm. I didn't feel the power anywhere else. That's strange indeed, All Might admitted. It's most likely that your body isn't used to using the quirk. I think some more practice will let you use it more frequently. You're probably right. It took about a month for Izuku to realize what the problem was with his quirk. During the time in between him getting One for All and him discovering how to effectively use it, he had no progress with the quirk. Each time he'd use it, he'd get cramps. In addition, he couldn't use it in more than one body part at a time. He couldn't even adjust his power output. According to All Might, his only options at the moment were to use it at 0% or at 100%. I don't get it, Izuku said to himself one night, him being at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park to do some extra training. What is it that I'm missing? Clenching his right fist, Izuku summoned All for One in his arm. I can feel my arm flexing, but the power just stays there. It doesn't go anywhere else. Glancing at his left arm, he then summoned Power, the Power Stone, it surrounding him in a light purple aura. Here I can feel it everywhere. Immediately, Izuku began comparing the two sieges of energy. When using One for All, he seemingly had to flex to use it, as it was how All Might activated his power. Of course, unlike the number one hero, clenching his butt and yelling didn't seem to be working as well as it did for him. Now, with the Power Stone, it was like a blanket of power was surrounding him, allowing him to power all of himself up. At the same time, there was a clear origin point, making it similar to One for All in that regard. A focus point, Izuku said to himself. The Power Stone relies on a focus point to work. While I want to say it's the stone, it might actually be my body. The power is distributed evenly after all. With One for All though, the focus point seems to be my arm. Wait, if I make my entire body the focus point for One for All like I do with the Power Stone, will that work? Deciding to test his theory, Izuku walked towards a garbage pile and activated his quirk. However, instead of flexing only his arm, he made sure to pay attention to his entire body. Doing so ended up surprising him as green sparks of energy began flying around him. Reeling a fist back, he then slammed it into the garbage pile, obliterating it completely. I can't believe all I needed to do was act like I was using the Power Stone, Izuku mumbled in amazement. If that's the case, can I choose to surround myself with a small portion of power like with the Power Stone? Activating One for All again, he attempted to lower the output of the energy his quirk produced by up to half. Spotting another garbage pile, he rushed up to it and swung, destroying it with ease. Smiling at how quick he moved and the destruction he caused, Izuku turned off his quirk. Man, I can't wait to show All Might. When All Might arrived at the beach the next day, he was greeted with the sight of a green blur completely tearing apart the mountains of garbage resting on the beach. Noticing the number one hero, the blur eventually stopped moving, revealing it to be his protege. Young Midoriya, what was that you did just now? The man asked. Oh, All Might, I finally figured out how to use One for All, Izuku stated before he began explaining his discovery. Originally, I've only been channeling One for All through one part of my body. With my quirk though, I channel its power throughout my entire body. Which gave me an idea. Instead of flexing one part of my body to trigger the power, I tried letting it cover my body like a blanket. I'd say it worked. Indeed it did, All Might said with a smile. How much can you use? With One for All being so similar to my quirk, I found out how to use up to 100% of its power. My boy, that's incredible. No. That you figured out how to activate One for All, I can train you how to effectively use it in combat. The last thing you want is to accidentally kill someone. Izuku's face paled. Absolutely not. Thus began what Izuku dubbed, the 8 months of hell. During this time, he sparred with All Might only using One for All. It was here that Izuku learned two things. First off, All Might was physic. Ally stronger than him even if he used 100% of One for All. According to the hero, it was because the quirk grows along with its user and that All Might has had more time with the quirk. Secondly, All Might was a beast in hand-to-hand combat. While Izuku was no slouch, All Might was way beyond him, having had tons of training. One wouldn't expect All Might to be this skilled if they watched his fights against villains, since he really only needed his immense power to defeat them. As for finally combining the Power Stone with One for All, the both of them decided that he would only do so in emergencies after doing a test trial. So, you want me to throw this rock using both my quirks, right? Izuku asked 5 months into their training, a stone in hand. Yes, All Might stated. It'll give me a visual as to how your quirks stack. Buffing up, All Might reeled his arm back and tossed the stone in his hand with all his might. Smash! With his strength, the hero managed to lit the ocean down an incredible distance before the rock fell into the ocean. Whoa, that was so cool! Izuku exclaimed with stars in his eyes. Lemme try. Mimicking the movements of his hero, Izuku had all of One for All course through his body. As for how much energy he drew from the Power Stone, he only used a very small amount to be safe, not wanting to accidentally blow up his own arms. Upon combining the two, a purple aura began to surround Izuku as green sparks of energy shot out of him. Smash! Throwing the rock, he made a path in the ocean far wider and longer than the one All Might did moments ago. Seeing as the rock never made contact with the water, it was likely that it simply disintegrated. Both males simply stood there with their mouths hanging open, never having seen that much power in their lives before. Eventually, All Might decided to speak up. Holy, stinking, super crap. I think it's safe to say that unless it's an emergency, you should only use one or the other in a fight instead of combining them. Why yeah, I barely even used any of the Power Stone's strength and it managed to do that. Barely any of it. Are you sure about that, young Midoriya? Absolutely. It seems young Midoriya is far stronger than I thought. Thankfully he's on the side of good. For the rest of the time leading up to UA's entrance exam, Izuku spent his mornings practicing with All Might on how to use One for All while dedicating his nights to further practicing with his Power Stone. Even though both increased his strength, the Power Stone had some tricks up its sleeve that All for One lacked. Having the ability to create force fields and shoot energy blasts. In case of a situation where he needed to combine his quirks, Izuku already had a plan. He would use One for All as his base, seeing as it had a known limit before powering up the quirk with the Power Stone. All in all, the boy was prepared for the start of his journey in being the next top hero. Yo Deku, fucking wake up already. The boisterous voice of his best friend said, snapping Izuku back to reality. The two were standing near the front gates of UA Academy, their test being today. You'll miss the goddamn test if you keep spacing out. Sorry Kachan, Izuku said, rubbing his head awkwardly. I guess I'm just a bit nervous. Nervous of what? The boy scoffed. Of these extras. Please. They're nothing compared to us. I think you're severely underestimating them, Izuku mumbled to Katsuki, knowing full well that some of the people here have had professional training. Of course, he was simply ignored by the explosive blonde. Mark my words, you and I will have the highest scores. Of course, I'll be above you, but second's not so bad. Whatever you say, firecracker. Rolling his eyes, Izuku began walking forwards. His best friend in tow, only for him to trip over a crack in the floor. Of course this would happen to me. Channeling 1% of One for All to lessen the damage done to his face upon hitting the floor. He was surprised when he never did so, instead being arranged back to the standing position as he floated. And release. A female voice stated, causing Izuku's feet to touch the ground. Turning around, he was surprised to see his savior was a cute brunette girl his age. Phew, it's a good thing I managed to catch you. Falling before the entrance exam would have been some serious bad luck. Why yeah, Izuku stuttered, his mind having crashed due to the fact he was currently talking to a girl. Meanwhile, Katsuki let loose a silent snort at the situation as he found it amusing. Thanks for the save. Quote. The girl cheerfully smiled at him. No problem. Was her quirk an anti-gravity one or some form of telekinesis? Izuku asked himself as the girl glanced at her watch. Eyes widening as she realized the time. Aw shoot. There's only 5 minutes left until the exam. Well, Good luck you too. With a small wave, she began running inside before Izuku could even ask her about her quirk. Sighing to himself, he soon felt something hit his back. And you wonder why I call you a DEKU, Katsuki stated next to him before walking towards the entrance. Well, you heard, round face. Let's fucking go. Rolling his eyes, Izuku followed his friend to the testing site, nervousness swelling up inside his body. The first part of the exam was the written portion, which lasted 3 hours. Being the intellectual and hero nerd that he was, Izuku breezed through the exam in an hour, Katsuki finishing shortly after him. The two hanging out in the cafeteria until the written exams were over. They then made their way to UA's auditorium where the instructions for the physical portion of the exam were being given. Welcome to today's live performance. Everybody, say hey. Famous hero and you. The entrance exam host Present Mike shouted, using his sound-based quirk to louden his voice. Much to his surprise, no one replied. Whoa, that's Present Mike, Izuku excitedly whispered to himself. I listen to his podcast every day. They really do have pro heroes teaching here. Yo nerd, shut the fuck up, Katsuki whispered to him, the two sitting next to one another. Well, that's cool my listeners. Present Mike stated, disappointed that no one responded to him. Well, I'm here to present the guidelines for your practical, are you ready? Again, he was met with another awkward silence. Wow, tough crowd. Anyways, this is how the test will go. You will conduct a 10-minute-long city landscape maneuver. Within this city, there will be fake villains, each worth different amounts of points. As he said this, the screen behind him started lighting up before revealing the 3 villains, aka 3 different types of training robots. Use your quirks to disable them by any means necessary. Hearing this explanation make Izuku smile. He was glad the concept of the test was easy. The main challenge would be getting to the robots before anyone else did. While one for all in the power stone made him a literal speed demon, he didn't know if anyone else taking the exam had a quirk which made them faster than him. Glancing at the papers he and Katsuki were given before he entered the auditorium, he noticed the two would be taking their exams at different sites. Looks like we won't be together, Izuku whispered to his friend. TCH, yeah. Looks like I won't be there to save your ass if you fuck up. Oh, cheating or injuring others is strictly prohibited, so if you do any of these things, you will be eliminated. Present Mike hastily added as the two boys were talking. And trust me, we'll know if you do. Any questions? Yes, a formal-looking individual with glasses said. It was said there were no less than 4 varieties of fake villains on the handout. As the top hero academy in Japan, you should be ashamed of making such a careless error. He then turned to both Katsuki and Izuku. As for you two, you've done nothing but serve as a distraction for those of us trying to take this test. If you don't plan on taking this seriously, then I suggest you leave. At this point, several of the other testies began laughing at the two boys, causing Katsuki to start growling. Knowing how much the boy hated being laughed at, Izuku nodded at his friend, giving him permission to do whatever it was he planned on doing. Shut the fuck up you extras. The boy shouted, his intimidating demeanor causing everyone to go silent. He then turned his attention towards the boy who called them out. You with the stick up his ass, who the fuck do you think you are calling us out? Me and the nerd next to me were talking about the damn exam and seeing as how no one else bothered to shush us, we weren't disturbing anyone. The only fucker who seemingly had a problem with 2 people goddamn whispering to each other was you, the moron who decided to cause an even bigger scene. Maybe it's you who should fucking leave if you're so fucking prissy. Chillax examines, Present Mike stated, trying to defuse the situation. Seeing the man do so, Izuku placed a hand on his friend's shoulder, issuing to sit down. The boy who Katsuki called out, shocked at the boy's outburst, sat down himself. Now, there is a final villain, but they are worth 0 points. I were you, I'd run if you encounter one. Got it. This time, he actually got a bit of cheers in response. Then break a leg everyone. Plus ultra. Quote. After the briefing, Present Mike split all the test takers into 4 different groups and had them wait outside the mock city. Looking around, Izuku began observing his competition. Noticing how determined everyone was at taking this exam. I wonder if the people at Katsuki's test site are acting similar, Izuku thought to himself. Hopefully he hasn't angered anyone with his boasting. Knowing him, he probably has. Continuing to analyze his surroundings, his eyes eventually landed on a familiar brunette, the girl looking extremely tense. She looks nervous. Maybe I should wish her luck. It might help her calm down a bit knowing someone thought of her. Halt. Can't you see she's trying to relax herself? A voice asked him before he could finish taking his first step. Turning around, Izuku found himself face to face with the same kid who shamed the school for leaving out the fourth villain. She's taking this exam seriously. If you want to get in this school, I'd recommend you do the same. Izuku flushed in embarrassment at being called out again, only for it to soon go away as he heard his peers mocking him. Hey, what a loser. Looks like one less person to worry about. Izuku began clutching his hand, not willing to let those comments stand unchallenged. Activating 30% of One for All, he was ready to prove these people wrong for underestimating him. And start. The voice of Present Mike yelled, causing most of the examinees to look at him in confusion as a small breeze made itself known for a few seconds. What are you waiting for? Present Mike asked the students. The exam started like 2 minutes ago. Villains aren't going to wait for you, you know. Someone's already racked up 30 points in the second you were all just standing there. Go. Turning around, the kid who spoke out against Katsuki turned around. Upon doing so, he noticed that the boy he was talking to was no longer there. Realizing what this meant, he activated his quirk and began rushing inside, everyone else following behind him. And start. Upon hearing Present Mike's shout, Izuku rushed in, his training with All Might teaching him how to react in a split second. Entering the city, the boy was met with a large chunk of robots. There were 1 3-pointer, 5 2-pointers, and 17 1-pointers. With the 3-pointer being closest to him, Izuku decided to take it on first. Running up to it, Izuku swung a devastating haymaker at his target, obliterating it with ease. Smash! His plan worked a little too well, for the shockwave he produced completely tore the other robots mentioned apart, netting him 30 points total. I might have went a bit overboard. What are you waiting for? Present Mike's voice boomed over the microphone. The exam started like 2 minutes ago. Villains aren't going to wait for you, you know. Someone's already racked up 30 points in the second you were all just standing there. Go. Hearing this, Izuku decided to go further into the city, wanting to grab some more points before the stampede arrived. If Katsuki wasn't already fired up for the physical exam, he was now. Putting that pointless extra in his place, he made his way to his testing site, ready for some action. Unfortunately, instead of engaging in some robot ass kicking, he was waiting outside his test. In sight for Present Mike to start the exam. Hurry the fuck up, old man, the boy growled as he impatiently tapped his foot. Eventually, he got his wish. And start. While the extras were giving the man confused glances, Katsuki wasted no time and launched himself forwards with an explosion. Rushing inside, his eyes landed on a nice 2-pointer ready to die by his hands. An explosion to the face later, it was down for the count. That was a 2-pointer. Too easy. Turning around, Katsuki was about to throw himself at some more robots when something made his blood freeze. What are you waiting for? The exam started like 2 minutes ago. Villains aren't going to wait for you, you know. Someone's already racked up 30 points in the second you were all just standing there. Go. 30 points. Someone managed to rack 30 points in the time it took for him to defeat this 2-pointer. The thought of that shook Katsuki to his core as he knew who could have done such a thing. Fucking DEKU. With a roar, he continued his onslaught, murdering any robot who dared stand in his way. Katsuki always knew Izuku was hiding the strength of his quirk. When the two sparred, he could tell the boy was holding back. Whenever he confronted the nerd about this, Izuku would just spew out some shit and say he was making things up. For years he's been trying to get Izuku to unleash his strength. But the boy was adamant in pretending he was always a bit below Katsuki in terms of power. Now, hearing that he already racked in so many points in such little time, it made Katsuki realize that he was indeed right. Izuku has been holding back his true power. Of course, it could have been another test-goer who destroyed the robots, but being the hothead he is, Katsuki didn't acknowledge that possibility. No, The only possibility he acknowledged was that he finally had competition now. As he continued to destroy robots, Katsuki noticed someone getting snuck on by a three-pointer. Naturally, the boy wanted to leave the extra. But he knew Izuku would give him shit if he found out. Rolling his eyes, he leapt on the three-pointer and blasted its head off. Pay attention to your fucking surroundings next time. The boy barked before leaving to find more robots, not even paying the other person any mind. Unknown to him, this act would raise his score from an already impressive 77 points to an even 80 points. As Katsuki was tearing several robots apart in his area, Izuku was doing the same. He had managed to net himself another 60 points by destroying several more robots. Doing so by taking them on in packs. At first, he was worried about them hurting him, but after being hit by some of their attacks, Izuku realized that 30% of one for all was enough to shrug off anything the 2 or 1 pointers threw at him. The 3 pointers on the other hand managed to pierce through his defenses, but they barely did any damage. As such, Izuku was free to take them out without worrying about himself. As he continued his exam, he actually found himself aiding some of his fellow examinees. He took out a 1-pointer that was sneaking up against a blonde kid could shoot a laser out of his belly button, managed to create a force field fast enough to stop some rubble from falling on a pink-skinned girl with horns, caught a 3-pointer that was sent dying towards an invisible girl, and helped a red-haired boy duke it out with some 3-pointers. The latter earned him praise about being manly for aiding him. That's 90 points, Izuku stated to himself. And the exam's almost over. I think I did pretty well. Hopefully Kachan's doing alright. It was then that the ground began to shake, causing Izuku to turn his attention towards the source of the ruckus. Doing so, he saw an enormous robot standing taller than any building casually blasting some of the structures in its vicinity. That thing's huge. Is that the 0-pointer? Seems like overkill to me. Immediately, several people began to run past him as he stared at the robot, marveling at its sheer size. Unknown to him, the boy who had called him out earlier shook his head, believing Izuku to be frozen in fear and as such, not worthy of being a hero. Eventually, Izuku decided that he should run as well, not sure if he could even take that thing on, only for him to hear something no one else could do to them panicking. Help. Under some rubble and in the path of the robot was the girl Katsuki called Round Face. It was clear she couldn't get out and if someone didn't do anything, she would be crushed. Somebody, please help me. Without even thinking about it, Izuku channeled 100% of One for All into his body and started sprinting towards the girl. As he ran in, Izuku began thinking of a plan. With 100% of One for All, I might be able to stagger this thing, but it could recover before I can get the girl to safety. Boosting 1 for All with the Power Stone might actually let me punch a hole in it big enough to take it down. Let's do this. Leaping in the air, Izuku channeled a bit of energy from the Power Stone to increase the strength of One for All, using twice as much as he did when he tested combining them the first time. What the boy didn't know was that he would have beaten the robot without the stone. Doing so was simply overkill. Smash! Unleashing a devastating uppercut, the boy ended up sending the 0-pointer skyrocketing into the air. Seeing as the robot never fell down, it was safe to say it was gone for good. Turning his attention towards the girl, he deactivated the Power Stone and lowered One for All to 5% before lifting the rubble off her. Are you okay? For a while, the girl couldn't speak. Starstruck by the boy who had saved her. She has never seen such power before in her life. Judging by the fact that everyone else was looking at the boy in a similar way, she wasn't the only one. Why yeah, my ankle is sprained though. Oh, Izuku stated, immediately transforming back into his shy self. Would you like me to take you to the nurse? Could you? Nodding, Izuku picked her up. Both of their faces red at such an intimate moment. Thankfully, Izuku didn't have to travel far for the nurse was already on site. Oh dear, seems like these tests get more and more dangerous every year. An elderly lady said to herself as she strolled towards the test takers. Izuku immediately recognized her as Recover Girl, a hero who heals others instead of fighting bad guys. Does anyone need healing? As much as Izuku wanted to release his inner fanboy right now, there were more important things he had to do. She does. Nodding her head, the woman kissed the girl in her arms, healing her ankle. There you go. All better. Thanks, the girl said in gratitude, Izuku setting her down shortly after. As for the rest of you, you've all had a long day. I'd suggest going home and getting some rest. We'll send you your results over the mail in a few weeks. Hearing this, Izuku went to go find his friend, wanting to compare results. Unknown to him, two people were moved by his act of saving the girl from danger. That boy, I seem to have underestimated him. Not only is he strong, but he clearly acted like a hero when the rest of us ran. It seems I still have a bit to learn. He saved me without hesitation or fear for his safety. He could have easily used this time to earn more points. He definitely deserves to come here. Breaking news. UA has launched their very own satellite into space. According to Nezu, the principal of UA, it was done to aid in educating the students while also testing out a surveillance system of his and pro-hero power loader's design. However, what purpose does it serve to make it like one of the robots used during their entrance exams? We'll have more information for you at 8. Izuku, hey, did you get your letter yet? Katsuki, this is the 5th time you've fucking texted me tonight. Have some goddamn patience. It's not like the school would choose some fucking extra over you. Izuku sighed as he put down his phone. It has been weeks since he took the exam and the boy was nervously waiting for his results. Speaking of his performance on the exam, Katsuki actually cornered him a few days after the exam to talk to him about the fact he demolished 30 points worth of robots. Hey Kachan, what did you want to talk about? Izuku asked his friend. Out of nowhere, the blonde boy had asked him to meet at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. Having no reason not to accept, Izuku made his way there. He really should have known what this would be about. Katsuki continued watching the ocean, not even looking at the boy. Eventually, he opened his mouth. During the test, Present Mike said that someone had somehow scored 30 points in 2 seconds. Congrats Ka. It wasn't me, idiot, the blonde shut down Izuku's attempt at feigning ignorance as to who could have pulled off such a feat. What the fuck did you do? I have no idea what you're such a shitty liar. Katsuki yelled, having turned around to glare at his friend. I know it was you. Whenever we fought, you never showed such power. Spill it, were you always that powerful? Were you fucking hiding it from me? No. Izuku replied. I just figured out another way to use my quirk. Katsuki raised an eyebrow, not fully believing Izuku's lie. Knowing that he couldn't tell his best friend about One for All or the Power Stone, Izuku had to continue his lie. I figured out that I can charge my strength into one part of my body and release it. Sadly, it leaves me a bit weakened whenever I use it, and it wasn't until recently that I figured out how to do it without draining so much of my energy. You fucking promise you haven't been taking pity on me? How can anyone ever take pity on you? Even with Izuku secretly being the stronger of the two. Katsuki was an amazing individual of his own. Crafty, powerful, possessing a great fighting instinct, and with an immense desire to win, Katsuki will be a tough opponent against whoever he goes up against. I swear, I haven't done such a thing. TCH. Whatever. Thankfully Katsuki decided to drop the subject. Unknown to the other boy however, Katsuki knew that something was up with his friend. Despite his hot-headed nature, he was far from dumb. What the fuck are you hiding? Izuku, it's here. Well, speak of the devil and he shall appear. Looking up from his phone, he saw his mother scurrying towards him. An envelope in hand. Eyeing it, he noticed that it was sent to him by UA. Thanks Mom. Taking the envelope from his mother, Izuku ran up to his room and closed the door. Opening the envelope, he was confused to see that some sort of circular machine was inside instead of a standard letter. Touching the device, his confusion turned to one of surprise when a hologram began to appear, displaying an image of the current number 1 hero. I am here as a projection. All Might's working at UA. Izuku asked himself, seeing no other reason as to why the hero was on the recordings instead of the principal. Despite all the time he spent with the pro hero, he never mentioned that he would be teaching at UA though, hence why he was surprised to see the hologram of his mentor in the first place. It says here that you managed to pass the written portion of the exam and received a whopping total of 90 villain points on the Physical portion, which is enough to pass. In fact, you've earned the most points out of everyone taking the test this year. Izuku smiled, proud of his accomplishment. To be honest, he was pretty sure that he passed even before receiving the results. Comparing his score to that of past applicants, his score had actually beat a good chunk of theirs, coming in second to All Might, which was to be expected seeing as he had a weaker version of the hero's quirk. However, that is not all. The projection continued, turning his pride into confusion. You see, the test was designed to help us look for those we think could be the best possible heroes. And after the stunt you pulled with the 0-pointer, the hologram then shifted to an image of the brunette he saved speaking to Present Mike. Excuse me, but I have a question about the test. Sure. Ask away. Little listener. Well, during the test, a green-haired boy saved me from the 0-pointer that was about to crush me. I would have been dead if it wasn't for him, so if possible, if he didn't get enough points to pass, could you please give him some of mine? He deserves to go here. Ha 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 ha. Don't you worry, he'll be fine, Present Mike informed her. It was then that the hologram shifted back to All Might. How could we ignore what you have done? Due to your actions, not only have you received 60 extra hero points, but the girl you saved as well earned 40. The hologram's image shifted again to show a chart of the top 10 highest scoring participants. Highlighted on it was the girl she saved, Ochako Uraraka being her name, and his own. However, It surprised him was that due to the hero points, he actually ended up scoring 150 points, putting him in first place by quite a margin. Second place had nothing on him. Come young Midoriya, this is your hero academia now. When the hologram ended, Izuku continued to stare at it, tears filling up his eyes. He was now one step closer to becoming the hero he was aiming to be. I made it. All Might, Uatu. All do you proud and become the greatest hero the world has ever seen. This hologram will self-destruct in 3, 2, his eyes widening, Izuku jumped back, making sure to put some distance between him and the hologram. Quote. 1. Boom. Asterisk. The hologram exploded into a pile of smoke, much to the annoyance of Izuku. Opening his window, he allowed the smoke to air out of his room. Unfortunately, doing so caused him to hear a horrific noise. Foot cccccckkkkking hell. Honestly, he should have expected that his best friend was upset at not being the highest scoring participant of UA's exam. He'll be fine. Sadly, this meant that Katsuki will be getting a bit more competitive now, but in a way, this was good. Katsuki's competitiveness will remind Izuku that he wasn't the only one aiming to be a hero. In fact, it fueled his desire to keep his promise of becoming the best hero to exist. To think he'll actually be attending UA, Izuku thought to himself as he stared at his new school. Eventually, time passed and it was now Izuku's first day at UA. To say that he was nervous was an understatement. Today marked another major milestone in his journey to becoming a hero. Alright, let's do this. Entering the building, Izuku immediately began to search for his classroom, Class 1A. It turns out that Katsuki and him would be classmates again, something which pleased the boy. He didn't know what the rest of his classmates were going to be like, so having a friend already definitely eased some of the nervous tension the boy was feeling at the moment. Finding the classroom door, Izuku took a deep breath in. These doors are huge, probably to help accommodate those with size-altering quirks. Alright, let's do this. Excuse me, I ask that you take your feet off the desk this instant. It is extremely disrespectful to those who took the time to create it. PFF'd. Don't tell me what to do, you filthy side character. Who the hell are you anyways? My name is Tenya Iida and I come from Sume Private Academy, Sume. So you're some damn elitist. I'm going to enjoy crushing you. Crush. You wish to become a hero with that attitude. Really Kachan. Having entered the room, Izuku noticed his best friend arguing with a boy with a formal appearance. It's the first day and you're already antagonizing someone. Shaking his head, he made his way his friend so he could defuse the situation. Kachan, why? Why what? Why are you already getting into an argument with someone? Not my fault this guy has a stick permanently stuck in his ass. Izuku had to resist the urge to laugh at the other boy's face. Just do what he says. You shouldn't have your feet on the desk. Anyways, and if I don't, I'll tell your mom that on your first day, you were already causing problems. The fuck you think this is, DEKU? Kindergarten. Despite his complaining, Katsuki did as he was told, not wanting to deal with his mother. Fucking goody two-shoes. Turning to the other boy, Izuku politely bowed. Sorry about him, he was just nervous. Nervous my ass. Hush you. The other boy simply studied Izuku's form, him realizing something a second later. You are the boy who took out the 0-pointer and saved that girl, correct? And you're the guy who chewed us out for talking about the exam, Izuku thought to himself, managing to recon. Eyes the other boy after looking at his face for a bit. However, instead of saying this out loud, the green-haired boy simply nodded, wondering where this was going. Great. I must admit, I was quite surprised to see you manage to quickly deduce the hidden portion of the exam, something not even I could get. My name is Tenya Iida and I look forward to spending my next 3 academic years with you. My name's Izuku Midoriya and my friend here is Katsuki Bakugo, Izuku replied, his friend scoffing at Tenya. Despite how stiff he was, Tenya seemed like a nice enough person. I didn't know about the hidden portion. I just saw someone who needed saving and went for it. I see, then you certainly deserve to be a hero, Tenya declared. Very well then, I shall follow your example this day fort. So I may call myself a hero someday as well. Izuku simply gave him an understanding nod. As this was going on, the door swung open. Hey, green hair, you're the boy that saved me. Turning their attention towards the door, the 3 teens noticed the girl Izuku had helped enter the room. Wow, I can't believe we're in the same class. Thank you for saving me, shoot. I never got your name. Izuku Midoriya. Fucking DEKU. Katsuki had to stop himself from laughing. This moron in front of him was somehow the same boy who could match him in combat and managed to get first place on the entrance exam. Seriously, how was he so bad at talking to girls? Next to me are Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Iida. My name's Ochako Uraraka. I hope we become great friends, the girl introduced herself. Izuku nodded vigorously. Nailed it. Single quote. I can feel myself growing more and more pathetic, Katsuki thought with a snicker, Izuku glaring at him. Sadly, or thankfully depending on how you thought about it. Before anyone else could say anything more, a voice made itself present. If you're here to socialize, then you might as well leave. The entire room fell silent at that, every student looking towards the source of the voice. Much to their surprise, a man wrapped in a sleeping bag was standing at the room's entrance, looking as if he had just awoken from a large nap. It took you 8 seconds to shut up, disappointing. I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher for the next year. Understood. Yes, sensei. Tenya diligently shouted as everyone looked at the strange man. When did he get here? Izuku asked himself, a question that was going through the minds of his classmates as well. Good. I'll be handing out your PE uniforms. Go get changed and meet me at the back field. Just because it's your first day doesn't mean you don't have to work. As his teacher began calling everyone up to receive their uniforms, Izuku felt like he recognized the man from somewhere, but he couldn't put his finger on it. HMPH. You all made it here in 8 minutes, Shota said, giving the class a disappointed look once everyone made it to the field. We'll work on that. Now, the reason I brow. GHT you all out here is for a quirk assessment test. A quirk assessment test? Ochako asked, tilting her head in confusion. Shota simply nodded in response. Yes, you've all had basic physical assessment tests back in elementary school. Correct. These are nearly the same. Holding out a ball, the man looked at Izuku. Midoriya, you've placed first on the exam. What's your softball throw record? 200 meters, the boy said, causing his teacher to glare at him. Without your quirk, 200 meters. My quirk has a side effect that makes it so I have super strength even when I'm not using it, Izuku explained. Causing his teacher to nod in understanding. Alright, try it with your quirk. Upon hearing this, Izuku activated One for All and threw the ball. Watching it, he noticed that it Actu Ally ended up outside the school's campus. 3,000 meters, impressive, Shota said as everyone began marveling at the boy's strength. That's so cool. A pink-skinned girl shouted in excitement. This is going to be so much fun. Fun. You think being a hero is fun. Well, how about this? Anyone who I deem to have no potential will get expelled, is that clear? Expelled. But we just got here. That's so unfair. A short boy with grape-looking hair complained. Izuku would later learn that the boy's name is Minoru Mineta. Unfair. According to the principal, as teachers can run our courses as we please. As a result, I'm sorry to tell you that for the next 3 years, UA will run you through the ringer. That's plus ultra. Use your strength to overcome it all. So bring it. When Aizawa finished, most of the class looked at one another with uncertainty. Izuku, however, was having a different problem. So do I use the power stone or not? I mean, I really don't know its limits, and with one for all now in my body, I can use more of the stone without getting exhausted, but I'm not sure what'll happen if I do, and this isn't an emergency. Oh well, looks like I'll be testing my limits with one for all today. After Shota's dramatic speech, the tests began. Despite the teacher having Izuku show off his quirk through the softball throw test, the first test the class went through was a 50-meter dash. During said test, 2 students other than Katsuki and himself managed to shine. Tenya's quirk made the run a cakewalk, his legs having small engines he could use to run at superhuman speeds. As such, he managed to clear the run in 3.04 seconds. The other student who performed remarkably well was a girl named Tsuyu Asui, her quirk giving her all the abilities a frog has. Using her increased jumping capabilities, she was able to clear the run in 5.58 seconds. Don't get in my fucking way, DEKU. Alright, Izuku replied with a shrug. Go. Upon hearing the signal to start, Katsuki fired off several explosions behind him, using it to launch himself across the field. However, Izuku easily overtook him, ending with a time of 2 seconds flat. As for Katsuki, he ended with a time of 4.13 seconds. Normally, he'd be upset, but he knew Izuku had the upper hand when it comes to raw speed and strength. The next exam was just as simple, it being a test of everyone's grip strength. All everyone needed to do was grip the small machines given to them as hard as possible. The student who shined the most was Mezu Shoji, a boy with the ability to transform his 6 tentacles into any body part of his choosing. Turning all of them into arms, the boy managed to obtain a score of 540 kilograms. Dude, are you a monster or what? Hantasiro, a boy who had the ability to shoot a tap E-like substance from his elbow, asked the boy. Crunch. Asterisk. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Izuku, the boy sheepishly rubbing his head with embarrassment. Due to using all of one for all, he ended up breaking the machine. Sensei, do you have another machine I can use? Once the grip strength test was finished, the long jump test began. This time, no one besides himself really stood out in particular. Nearly everyone at the same level physically. Tsuyu and Ochako had the best scores though, the former using her frog-like anatomy to her advantage while the latter had help with her zero-gravity quirk. Sensei, do you mind if we do this test later? Izuku asked his teacher. Why? I might end up jumping somewhere outside the school and getting back will take a long time without my quirk. Not really wanting to question Izuku, Shota wrote a note and handed it to the boy. There. That letter gives you permission to use your quirk to get back to the school if you manage to somehow leap over the school's campus. Wear one of these as well. Okay, thank you. Putting the tracker he was given in his pocket, Izuku leapt in much to the surprise of his teachers and classmates. He did indeed manage to leap out of the school's campus with a single jump. According to Shota's tracker, the boy ended up landing somewhere in the middle of the city. Hopefully he didn't destroy anything. The teacher Riley thought to himself. And this is him not even giving it his all. He's going to be a problem, I can tell it. The fourth test was a repeated sidestep test. Nothing unusual happened except for the fact Minoru was the one to get the second highest score. Apparently he can remove the grape-like parts of his hair and have them attached to things, using them as mini trampolines. He launched himself at a rapid pace, making Izuku realize the boy's quirk had no effect on its user. With one for all, Izuku managed to outpace and outlast the boy, claiming first place. After a hard day's work, the class found themselves facing the final exam, the softball toss. In the end, no one was able to beat Izuku's score except for Ochako. Using her quirk, she managed to launch the ball into the sky, it never being seen again. According to the machine Aizawa was using to keep track of their scores, Ochako received a score of infinity, something the brighter kids rally. Z was impossible seeing as the ball simply went so far that the device couldn't detect its location. Katsuki ended up getting the third highest score with an impressive 705.2 meters. Izuku ended up managing to arrive as the tests were concluding. How was your trip? Katsuki asked in a jesting manner. Pretty fun, Izuku jokingly replied. I found some nice restaurants while I was coming back. Midoriya, you're up, Shota said, confusing the boy. Sensei, I already went. You did, Shota confirmed. But do it again. Even more confused now, Izuku took his place and grabbed the ball handed to him. Charging up one for all to 100%, the boy tossed the ball. However, at the last second, he felt his quirk disappear as the ball only traveled 210 meters. That's an improvement from middle school, Izuku thought to himself. However, he had more important things to focus on. My quirk. It disappeared. I erased it, Shota casually said, much to his surprise. It was then that he realized who his teacher was. Wait, you're Eraserhead, the underground hero who has the ability to erase one's quirk just by looking at them. From what Izuku knew, the man didn't like attention. So why he was teaching at the most prestigious school in Japan was unknown to him. Looks like someone did their homework, the man mumbled before getting down to business. There's one thing I seeing, and it's when people needlessly hold themselves back, which is what you've been doing. What? The class looked at the boy, surprised that he had been dominating the exams while not being at full power. Izuku could practically feel Katsuki's anger rising upon hearing this. But I haven't, Izuku tried to defend himself, only for Shota to shut him down. You punched a 0-pointer to space. You did what? His class shouted, unable to contain themselves. Punching something as heavy as the 0-pointer was unheard of before. In fact, a hero managing to throw anything into orbit was unheard of. Quirks were powerful, but not that powerful. So that's what Yue supposedly sent into space, a girl, Momo Yaoyorozu, stated. It would explain why they'd suddenly launch a satellite into space on the same day as the exams. Either you start giving this everything you've got or I expel you. There's a problem with that, Izuku admitted, moving closer to his teacher so that no one else could hear them. If I go all out, there's a high chance I could seriously hurt someone. There was also the fact he didn't know what would happen if he used all the strength he could muster from the Power Stone. But he couldn't tell his teacher that. Then we'll simply move everyone back. That is not an excuse. Sensei, I punched a 0-pointer to orbit, Izuku mumbled to him. Do you really want to risk it? Shota looked at him. The boy did have a point. He also tossed a 0-pointer into space, so what need was there for him to throw a ball? Fine, I'll mark you down as infinite. Why, since you could probably launch it into space. With the exams now over, Shota began to address his class. With that out of the way, it's time to reveal the results of the test. With the press of a button, everyone's results and rankings were put on full display. Some were pleased with their score while others were not. In Minoru's case, he was tearing up as he found himself at the bottom of the pack despite his fantastic score on the repeated sidestep test. As for Izuku, he sort of expected his result. Looks like I'm first, with a quirk that boosted his physical capabilities, him doing well on the test was to be expected. Glancing to the side, he saw his best friend glaring at him, the glare promising him that he will not lose next time and that he had some explaining to do. Izuku gave him a nod in return before looking back on the board, not looking forward to when Katsuki decided to corner him again. As he did this, the boy could have sworn he had a set of hostile eyes pinned on him and it was making him uncomfortable. Congrats Midoriya, Ochako said, glad to see her friend had the highest score. You're incredible. As everyone continued reacting to their scores, Shota let loose a small cough, grabbing everyone's attention. Now if you're all done comparing scores, I have an announcement to make. As I said before, the person with the lowest score on the exam is to be expelled. However, since all of you seem to be at least somewhat competent, I'm not expelling anyone today. Oh thank God, Minoru joyfully cried out, hugging the nearest person besides him. Unfortunately, said person was Katsuki, who swatted him to the side with an explosion in response. Now go get changed. Your next class starts in 10 minutes. The rest of the day came and went by quickly. After the Quirk assessment exam, nothing of interest happened other than seeing which pro heroes would be teaching what class. Being the superhero fanboy he is, Izuku was practically in heaven, having a chance to meet some of his favorite heroes up close. If he wasn't for Katsuki being around to drag him out of class, the boy would either be mumbling facts about his teachers to himself or he'd be asking them 20 million questions. Eventually, Class 1A found themselves waiting for their last class to start, it being the mandatory Heroes Basics course. Surprisingly, no one knew which hero would be teaching this class. Well, that is, except for Izuku. Such remained a mystery until said teacher ended up bursting through the door, making a memorable entrance. I am coming through the door like an ordinary person, the booming voice of their teacher shouted as he entered the door. With the hero's bulging muscles and his costume, there was no mistaking his identity. He was the #1 hero, All Might. Seeing the legendary hero in person, everyone began getting excited. Is that really All Might? That's definitely his Silver Age costume. Settle down everyone, All Might said, silencing everyone. Yes, the rumors are true. I, All Might, will be teaching the Heroes Basics course here at UA. Today, we'll be going over combat training. However, such training must be done with style. Your hero costumes are labeled with the same number as your seats. Put them on and meet me at Ground Beta Plus Ultra. Wasting no time, everyone began grabbing their costumes and prepared for the lesson. Midoriya, I must say, your costume is quite impressive, Tenya said upon spotting his friend. The boy was dressed in a costume which seemed to make him look like a robot, making Izuku not realize his friend's identity immediately. As for Izuku, he was in a green full-body jumpsuit with a red belt, elbow pads, knee pads, a respirator, a single glove covering the hand not covered by his signature gauntlet, and red boots. Initially, Izuku had a hood meant to mimic All Might's hair, but after being told that it was fucking lame and stupid by Katsuki, who managed to catch him doodling the design, he removed it as he ended up agreeing with his friend. Thanks Iida, yours looks good as well, Izuku replied, making Iida smile under his helmet. At least you didn't go the nudist route like Kachin. Fuck you Deku. This is to help with my quirk, Katsuki told him. The boy decided not to incorporate a shirt into his costume, something that was due to the fact the boy's quirk and aggressive fighting style would end up destroying the thing to begin with. Wow guys, your costumes are so cool, Ochako gushed as she walked towards them. Seeing the girl caused Izuku's face to turn a bright shade of red. Ochako was wearing a skin-tight suit. The thing is, hers wasn't even the worst when it came to exposing one's body. Momo's costume left little to the imagination. How such a costume was allowed to be worn. He had no idea. Thanks, Izuku said, going into panic mode. Thankfully, All Might saved him from the awkwardness, who after realizing everyone was ready, began the activity. Alright, as you all know, being a hero often means you'll be fighting bad guys. As such, you'll need to learn to defend yourselves. I've split you all into 10 teams of 2. 2 teams will go head to head at a time. One serving as the heroes and one serving as the villains. The villains will be in charge of safeguarding a bomb inside a building. The heroes on the other hand will need to retrieve said bomb before the timer runs out. Any questions? Can I blow everyone up? No, Izuku replied to his friend's comment, causing him to grumble in annoyance. How do the heroes retrieve the bomb? Are we going to get expelled like with Aizawa-sensei? How will teams be chosen? Isn't this cape fantastic? Hold it. To retrieve the bombs, all the heroes need to do is touch it, All Might said before holding up a large strip capture tape. Both the heroes and villains will be getting these strips of tape. Tie them around your opponent and they'll be eliminated from the battle. Also, no one's getting expelled. Everyone but Izuku released a sigh of relief at the fact no one was being expelled, the boy in question unable to do so due to his quirk. Teams will be chosen through a lottery. All Might continued, pointing at a computer behind him with all the students' names listed. Pressing a button, the computer began shuffling the teams. Once it finished, Izuku immediately looked at the listing. Funny enough, Izuku and Katsuki ended up being on the same team. Looks like All Might's looking for casualties to happen, Katsuki said with a feral smile. Being best friends, the two boys knew how to fight alongside one another, having developed several different forms with one another. As such, Katsuki was confident that they would win. Now that teams have been made, it's time to see which ones will go head to head. Pressing the button again, All Might had the computer randomize the matches. Glancing at the computer, Izuku saw that he and Katsuki would be facing both Mezu Shoji and a boy named Shoto Todoroki. Alright Kachin, we've got some strong opponents we need to deal with, Izuku told his friend, the two currently the villains of the exercise. Normally, Katsuki would be adamant on coming up with the attack plan, but he knew how smart Izuku was when it came to quirks. He managed to catch the boy writing about their classmates while the exam was going on. From what I could gather, Mezu Shoji's quirk gives him enhanced strength and allows him to mimic the properties of some of his organs such as his eyes and ears. I think he can use them to increase his senses. Meanwhile, Todoroki got third on the quirk assessment exam and has a powerful ice quirk. He's also the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor. He hasn't used his fire, but I'm guessing it's strong due to his father. So, I'll fight icy hot, right? Katsuki asked. There was a part of him who wanted to fight Todoroki due to the fact the boy ended up beating his score during the quirk assessment. My fucking explosions will take care of his shitty ice. No, if it comes down to it, you'll be facing Shoji, Izuku told him. Before Katsuki could question his decision, Izuku continued speaking. Your quirk works best when you sweat. Todoroki's ice will slow down how much you sweat, so it's not smart to send you in against him, especially since we don't know how cold he can make his ice. Your quirk however is a perfect counter to Shoji. Both of you have brute strength on your side, but if his quirk does increase his senses, it means he has a weakness to loud noises and flashing lights, which you produce. Katsuki gave him a feral smile. As long as I get to kick some ass, I'm good with whatever. Good, 'cause I'm planning an ambush, Izuku said, causing Katsuki to listen in intently. As Izuku began explaining his plan, the boy's smile only increased. It was a very brutal and fast-paced plan, the type that Katsuki likes. Sounds good. Fuck yeah. Those extras won't win. Good. Now, help me move the bomb. If this stays here, then it could mess up our plan. Oh, and Katsuki. Remember, we're the villains. 'Cause as much chaos as you want. Just don't kill anyone. At this, the blonde crackled evilly. This was going to be fun. What are Midoriya and Bakugo planning? A boy named Ejiro Kirishima asked, the rest of Class 1A watching the matches through a projector. Well, it's got to be exciting if it's making Bakugo smile like that, Mina stated. Yeah, but do you think they can beat them? A blonde boy, Denki Kaminari asked his classmates. I don't think moving the bomb will do much other than distract them for a bit. From the looks of it, the two have more planned, All Might stated. We'll see what it is in a second. 10 minutes are up. Heroes, you may begin searching for the bomb. Shoto and Mezu glanced at each other as the doubly arm quirk user shifted his extra appendages into the form of ears. The hero's plan was simple. Mezu would scout where the bomb was while Shoto would freeze the entire building. Despite their quirks, Shoto was confident that he could simply do so and end the match before it could begin. Moving closer to the building, Mezu began scouting, only for a series of loud noises to interrupt him. Boom, 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 crash, asterisk. What's happening? Shoto asked his partner as Mezu's eyes widened. They're calm. Crash, asterisk. Before the boy could say anything else, the wall in front of them blew right up, the force throwing the two out of the building. Fuck, that was awesome, Katsuki stated, leaping off of Izuku's back. We should break through floors and walls more often. Oh definitely, Izuku said. Looking at Izuku, they noticed something was off about the boy. Replacing the typical warmth in his eyes was a look of madness. His smile was conveying the same emotion. However, compared to Katsuki, who looked like a straight-up beast at the moment, Izuku looked to be analyzing them intently. To those watching, it was like watching two real-life villains at work, despite the fact Izuku was only acting like this as part of the exercise. But we got some heroes to break first. Kachin, would you do the honors? Stun grenade. Throwing himself forwards, the boy prepared to launch an explosion. Moving quickly, Shoto created a wall of ice, aiming to protect himself and his ally. When his explosion hit, a blinding light flashed, disorienting the two. A second later, the shattering of ice was heard and they suddenly felt something squeeze against them. When their vision returned, the two attempted to move, only to notice that they had been tied together with some of the capture tape. The heroes have been captured. The villains win. All. Might's voice rang through the intercom set up. Damn, that was way too quick. Katsuki grumbled in disappointment. I thought we'd have more time to fuck them up. Sorry, Izuku apologized to his friend, his demeanor returning to normal. But we did plan an ambush. We broke though and fell down 5 stories before they could get the chance to fight. Approaching the tied-up boys, Izuku snapped the tape by using a small percentage of one for all. Hey, sorry for being so rough. Are you two alright? I am, thanks, Mezu replied. The boys began making their way out of the training field. Unknown to Izuku, Shoto was digging holes in the boy's head. This is the last time I lose to you, Midoriya. Thanks for watching.